General Hospital spoilers for the next 2 weeks, April 28th through May 9th, tease that the coming weeks in Port Charles will be defined by breathtaking drama, shocking revelations, and betrayals that strike at the core of love and loyalty. As tensions rise and secrets deepen, 6 intertwining storylines will push beloved characters into emotional collapse. In the first part of this poignant story, we witness the tender hope and crushing despair of Trina Robinson as she awaits news of Kai Taylor's surgery, the burning and morally fraught ambitions of Jocelyn Jacks as she vies for that coveted research assistant position, and the explosive confrontation that turns the rivalry between Lulu Spencer and Harrison Chase into a dangerous alliance. Hold on to your seats. The nurses' ball may have passed, but Port Charles's next act is about to begin. Trina Robinson paced the length of her apartment in utter torment. Each tick of the clock seemed to echo like a death knell. Only days ago, she and Kai Taylor had been full of laughter as they hosted a pre-surgery celebration, determined to fill his last waking hours before the operating room with joy. The memory of that night, golden lights draped across the courtyard at the Metro Court, friends cheering, soft jazz floating in the air, seemed like a cruel tease now. Trina had insisted that Kai know just how deeply she cared, and in a moment of reckless courage, they had claimed each other under the stars. Late into the evening, after the champagne had been cracked and good wishes offered, they surrendered to a tender passion born of fear and longing. Trina believed her love could buoy Kai through the scalpel's blade, and for a fleeting moment, he had looked at her with eyes that spoke of hope as well. But as dawn broke and Kai was wheeled away, that hope had given way to an agonizing weight. Now, Trina's phone lay silent on the bedside table. Each minute without a call from the hospital felt like an eternity. Back in the OR, the surgeons had navigated the labyrinth of nerves and tissues with the precision of seasoned artists. But even the best medical hands could not guarantee miracles. Unforeseen complications, a ruptured artery that bled into the spinal column, tissue damage that proved irreversible, had transformed Kai's procedure from a calculated risk into a life-altering catastrophe. When the anesthesiologist whispered in the waiting room that the surgery had ended, Trina had smiled through tears, savoring the relief of its completion. She had no idea she was about to receive news that would shatter her world. Hours later, the doctor's gentle voice delivered the verdict: Kai's legs would never carry him again. Paralysis had set in, and the prognosis was grim. For Trina, guilt washed over her in icy waves. Had the party been a foolish distraction? Had her embrace, meant to comfort, somehow jinxed the outcome? Kai, who had fought so bravely, now lay still, his eyes haunted by loss. Trina knelt beside the bed, fingers trembling as she clasped his hand, and vowed to become his anchor in this new, unforgiving reality. Yet, even in this darkest hour, whispers of salvation emerged. Rumors hinted that Kai's estranged father, long rumored to have fled Port Charles after a scandalous affair, might return, drawn by his son's plight. Some believed this stranger would arrive, offering advanced treatments unavailable locally. Others speculated the father was someone far closer, hidden in plain sight among Port Charles's tight-knit community. As Trina held Kai's hand and watched his chest rise and fall, she dared to hope that familial reconciliation might spark a lifeline neither medical science nor youthful passion could provide. Meanwhile, deep within the hallowed halls of the university, Jocelyn Jacks plotted her ascent with a determination that burned brighter than any candlelight at the nurses' ball. The prestigious WSB Research Fellowship was up for grabs, and at its heart lay a coveted position as Professor Henry Dalton's assistant. For weeks, Jocelyn had observed the learned man, his round spectacles perched precariously as he lectured on neurochemical pathways, his tinkering in the lab as precise as a maestro conducting a symphony. To secure that assistantship was to cement her legacy, to prove that her intellect rivaled her wit. But ambition rarely walks a straight path. Jocelyn knew that at least one formidable rival was lurking. Another student whose credentials dazzled on paper and whose reputation for steely precision threatened to eclipse Jocelyn's charismatic brilliance. The professor, too, was known for his unorthodox tastes. Rumor had it that a well-placed flirtation, or something more, could sway his judgment as easily as rigorous scholarship. And so, armed with her trademark blend of confidence and charm, Jocelyn resolved to use every tool in her arsenal. Their first tête-à-tête came during a late-night reading session in the lab, the room perfumed with the metallic tang of reagents. As Dalton peered over his notes, Jocelyn sidled up, her voice low and playful. She praised his groundbreaking work, laughed at his dry humor, and offered to restock his coffee supply, anything to linger in his orbit. The professor, flattered yet wary, tested her knowledge with impromptu quizzes, probing her depth of understanding. Each question Jocelyn met with calm precision, her answers weaving data with insight, her laughter punctuating the heavy silence. Vaughn, her loyal confidant and occasional accomplice in escapades, watched with amusement and slight concern. "You're playing a dangerous game," he warned as they strolled through the quad beneath a canopy of stars. "He's brilliant, but he's also unpredictable. Don't let the seduction strategy backfire." Jocelyn smiled, her eyes glittering. "Trust me," she replied, "I know exactly what I'm doing." Yet, even she could feel the lines blurring between professional ambition and personal risk. The final test arrived at sunset when Dalton invited both candidates to present a collaborative experiment proposal. Jocelyn's heart thundered as she unveiled a daring approach to mapping synaptic regeneration post-injury, a project inspired by Kai's surgery and Trina's unwavering support. Emotion infused her words, transforming dry data into a portrait of resilience. Dalton leaned forward, his gaze sharpened, as he probed the feasibility, the ethical considerations, the potential for real-world applications. Jocelyn answered each challenge with grace, her passion undimmed by the professor's analytical dissection. By the time the lab door closed behind her, Jocelyn knew she had laid her soul bare. Whether that would translate into victory remained to be seen, but one truth shone: in love and ambition alike, she would stop at nothing to win. As the university's autumn leaves began to drift, another tempest brewed across town, between Lulu Spencer and Harrison Chase. The animosity had its roots in their shared concern for Brooke Lynn Quartermain, a woman they each loved in different ways. Brooke Lynn, ever the social butterfly, had become the subject of Lulu's next big exposé, an investigative piece probing the Quartermain family's influence over local philanthropy. Lulu believed that by examining Brooke Lynn's charitable work, she could reveal hidden agendas, conflicts of interest, and the ways in which wealth could both uplift and exploit. Chase, on the other hand, saw Brooke Lynn's giving heart in a far more personal light. As Brooke Lynn's husband, he was determined to shield her from prying journalists and potential scandal. To him, Lulu's article threatened not just Brooke Lynn's reputation, but her emotional well-being. When Lulu's deadline loomed, Chase intercepted her at Kelly's, his expression earnest and steely. "Lulu, you don't know what you're getting into," he implored, voice low. "This piece, if published, could destroy her. It's not right." Lulu folded her arms, her reporter's zeal ignited. "I'm searching for the truth, Chase. Brooke Lynn deserves to be held accountable like anyone else." Their clash echoed through the newsroom and beyond, drawing the attention of Dante Falconeri, who viewed Lulu as both partner and protector. Dante's loyalty to Lulu was unwavering. He had seen her tenacity yield justice time and again. But he also recognized the genuine love Chase bore for his wife. When the two men confronted each other in the hospital corridor, Chase's jaw clenched, Dante's gaze steely. The tension crackled as fiercely as any storm at sea. Yet beneath the hostility lay a shared obsession, an unspoken rumor that Brooke Lynn carried a secret child, one born of clandestine trysts and quarter-whispered scandals. Lulu's journalistic instincts had unearthed whispers that this child's paternity could redefine Brooklyn and Dante's relationship, perhaps implicating another man entirely. When Lulu confided her suspicions to Dante, heart pounding, he felt a betrayal deeper than any physical wound. "I need proof," Lulu insisted, eyes shining. "And I need your help." Chase, eavesdropping nearby, realized that their adversarial roles might shift. If a hidden child lurked in the shadows, exposing that secret could shatter multiple lives. He approached them with caution, proposing an uneasy alliance. Lulu would lead the investigation, and Chase would provide the muscle and legal leverage to secure DNA evidence. Dante, torn between anger and relief, agreed that the truth, no matter how painful, was worth pursuing. On a moonlit night at the docks, the trio met in hushed voices. Lulu outlined her plan to obtain a discarded coffee cup or a stray strand of hair for genetic sampling, while Chase arranged for a discreet path out of town should the operation go sideways. Dante stood guard, eyes scanning the rippling water. In that moment, lines between love and duty blurred. Colleagues became co-conspirators, rivals became collaborators, and the stakes soared higher than any headline. As Part 1 closes, Port Charles stands on a knife's edge. Trina Robinson clutches hope and fear in equal measure. Jocelyn Jacks teeters between professional triumph and personal peril, and Lulu, Dante, and Chase unite in a quest for a truth that could either heal or devastate the Quartermain legacy. Each character's decisions will reverberate across hospital corridors and academic halls alike, setting the stage for betrayals that will cut to the bone. Carly Spencer paced her opulent living room, the evening's tension thick enough to slice with a knife. Ever since the attack that nearly claimed Sonny Corinthos' life, she and her husband had lived in a perpetual state of hypervigilance. Carly's maternal instincts, from raising Michael to protecting her own heart, drove her to shield Sonny at all costs. But the question that haunted her was simple and terrible: who would dare strike at her family again? Sonny, the mob boss with a razor-sharp mind, had already bounced back from the first ambush. Yet Carly sensed his confidence concealing a brittle fear. Each time he looked at her, she saw the flicker of vulnerability. Together, they had agreed that Jack Brennan, the head of the PCPD, would spearhead the investigation, a decision born of pragmatism and trust. Carly believed in Jack's integrity above all else. Sonny, however, harbored a nagging doubt. "Carly," Sonny murmured that night, dark eyes shadowed with suspicion, "I'm not sure we picked the right man." Carly bristled. "Jack has your back. You know that." He paced, fingers brushing the spines of leather-bound books. "Or maybe he's holding something back. What if the real culprit is closer than we think?" Carly froze. Could Sonny be hinting that Jack might be the traitor? The thought was unthinkable. But in Port Charles, nothing was beyond suspicion. Meanwhile, beneath the surface, Jack Brennan methodically gathered evidence. Scrutinizing security footage, interviewing witnesses, tracing suspicious phone records. Each lead pointed to Jen Sidwell, the flamboyant public relations guru who had tangled with Sonny at the charity gala. Jen's motives, revenge for a business deal gone bad, fit neatly. Carly, relieved at the seeming clarity, leaned on Jack more than ever, her smiles masking a tumult of fear. Yet Sonny's unease festered. Late one night, he cornered Jack in his office, the air crackling with tension. "Are you hiding anything from me?" he demanded, voice low and unyielding. Jack's composure faltered for the first time. Carly, summoned by frantic texts, arrived to find her husband's hand clamped around Jack's collar. The three of them stood there, truths unspoken and trust on the brink of collapse. Away from the chaos of Port Charles, Jacinda relived her own betrayal. In Drew Kane's penthouse, the afterglow of their passionate rendezvous had turned to ash. Jacinda had demanded more than romantic mementos. She insisted on photographic proof, images that would validate her conquest and, more importantly, fatten her coffers. Nina Reeves, ever the puppet master, had paid Jacinda handsomely to seduce Drew, to snare him in a compromising affair. Jacinda's phone brimmed with the illicit snapshots, Drew's tousled hair, the sheets strewn aside, the guilty pleasure on his features. Only once Jacinda had collected every shot did she relinquish Drew's bed, slipping away like a shadow at dawn. Despite the moral cost, she reveled in the power those photos bestowed. She knew Nina would demand them in person. She imagined the hush of secret meetings, the clink of champagne glasses as Nina congratulated her on a job well done. But in Port Charles, small towns breed big rumors. Willow Corinthos, desperate to mend her marriage to Drew, sensed something amiss. When she discovered the images left carelessly on Jacinda's phone, her world imploded. The hurt in her eyes cut deeper than any blade. She confronted Drew amidst the ruins of their living room, grief and anger swirling in her voice. "I trusted you," Willow whispered, her tears reflecting the chandelier's light. "And you threw it away for what? Money?" Drew's apology was a stammered mess of regret. He swore he had been set up, that Nina had orchestrated the entire scheme. He insisted he had no idea Jacinda would take photos, and when asked why he hadn't stopped her, he admitted cowardice born of shock. "I'll find out who did this to me," he vowed, conviction hardening his tone. "I'll expose Nina." Thus began Drew's covert crusade. Under the radar, he hacked into Nina's encrypted messages, shadowed her meetings with shadowy figures, and quietly enlisted friends on the police force. Each clue tightened the noose around Nina's ambitions, promising retribution for the woman who had betrayed both Drew and his unsuspecting wife. As Drew waged his secret war, Jason Morgan delved into a puzzle that had been nagging at him since Willow's trip to Germany. Michael Corinthos, now recovering from his own health crisis abroad, had inexplicably known that Willow planned to visit, and he had instructed medical staff to bar her from his bedside. How had he learned of her presence? Jason's instincts told him this was no accident. Someone powerful had manipulated information channels, and Michael's well-being had been at stake. Jason's investigation began with a simple phone record analysis. He discovered that the call Michael received just before nursing staff denied Willow entry had originated from a number traced to GH's voicemail system. That lead pointed him to Drew Kane, whose own entanglement in Willow's heartbreak now seemed more sinister. When Jason confronted Drew in the dock's deserted warehouse, steam rising from the river below, Drew admitted his hand in the deception. He had feared that Willow's presence would jeopardize Michael's fragile condition. In a misguided bid to protect his wife's mother, he had diverted the staff's instructions. Jason's blue steel gaze bore into Drew. "You don't make these calls," he stated flatly, the weight of betrayal heavy in his words. "You don't decide who sees Michael." Drew hung his head, guilt etched in every line of his face. "I was scared," he confessed. "I thought if Willow saw Michael, she'd break down. And I already lost her once." Jason's silence was a verdict. He knew protecting the Corinthos family was paramount, but so was the truth. As the river's mist curled around them, Jason resolved to bring this hidden transgression into the light, no matter the fallout. Back in Port Charles, Carly, Sunny, Jocelyn, Lulu, Trina, Kai, and the others teetered on the brink of their own reckonings. Each storyline, like a cord in a web, pulled tighter, threatening to snap under the strain. Betrayal, ambition, love, and revenge interwove to create a tapestry as fragile as spun glass. In a town where every secret breeds new danger and every confession risks another wound, one thing remained certain: when the dust settled, no one would emerge unscathed. Brace yourselves, Port Charles fans. These 2 weeks from April 28th to May 9th promise to deliver heart-stopping twists, soul-shaking confrontations, and the kind of emotional catharsis that only General Hospital can conjure.